Hi there, David here. In this video, we'll be designing a thunder sound effect from scratch. Let's get right into our project. All right, so here we are inside of Reaper. And for this video, there's gonna be kind of like three parts to it. The first part, I'm gonna be showing you how to design like a thunder sound effect patch from scratch inside of Faceplant. After that, we're gonna go inside of Whoosh and create some more layers in there. And then after that, I'm gonna break down how I assembled everything together right here, plugins and everything, so that you can kind of follow along and do that for yourself. All right, so with that said, I'm just gonna load a new instance of Faceplant here. All right, here we go, so it's completely empty. And the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with a noise oscillator. And what this is gonna be like the rumble of the thunder. So that low, bassy kind of rumble sound, this is what this is gonna be. So if we play it right now, right, doesn't sound like much. Obviously, we're gonna have to put some filtering on there and other stuff, but we're gonna start with that. For the seed here, I'm gonna put random, so it kind of is different every time it gets triggered. And then first thing I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna put a 4-minute filter. This is just to give some tone to our sound. I like it around the U area here, and I'm bringing the Q all the way down. All right, after that, I'm just gonna bring the gain down quite a bit because this is, after all, quite loud, and for this rumble, it's just gonna be kind of the rumble after the explosion or the thunderclap, so it's not gonna be super loud and in your face. All right, and like I said before, we're gonna need a filter, and this is just to filter out everything that is above, let's see here, 600 hertz. So that's a good place to start. After that, we are gonna wanna add some distortion. So next, I'm just gonna add a phase distortion here, and I'm gonna bring the drive all the way up, right? So we're getting this cool distortion, but it's kind of the wrong tone, so I'm gonna bring the tone all the way down because I want it to be darker. So I'm putting it around like 70. There's really not much happening right there. All right, but with that, that is a good start to our sound. So next, we're gonna want to add some even more distortion, more in your face distortion. So here, I'm gonna add some overdrive distortion, and I'm just gonna bring this just about like that. Okay, and like I said, because this is gonna be the low rumble, we're gonna need to pitch it down, obviously, because right now it's still too high a pitch, so I'm just gonna bring it down quite a bit here. That sounds about right. Next, I'm just gonna add a dual delay, and what this is gonna do is just gonna add a sense of space to the sound here. And it's just gonna add that tail to the sound as well. So maybe I can increase the feedback a little bit. And right now it's kind of ending quite abruptly. So I'm just gonna increase the release here because I want it to have this really nice long tail and decay when I let go of my key on my keyboard here. All right, so that's pretty good for what we have so far. All right, next, I'm just gonna add another filter here, and this one's gonna be a little bit different. This is gonna be a bandpass, and I'm gonna bring this down to where our tone is. Like if we look here, you can see it's kind of peaking around here the most. So I'm gonna keep it here, and what I wanna do is add an audio follower, and I'm just gonna assign that to the cutoff here just a little bit, and it's just to add some movement and make the sound a little bit more alive, if you will. So I'm gonna need to increase the gain right now because right now we're not getting much going here. But not too much. This is just to add a little bit of movement here, as you can see. And that's it. After that, I'm gonna add even more distortion, so I still think I can use more. So let's use something even more obvious here. Okay, so now this is way too much for the filter, so I'm gonna remove the filter gain. All right, so that's cool. That sounds pretty good. Let's add some more reverb here. Good. All right, so that's pretty good. I like the way this is right now. The last thing I'm gonna add is another pitch shifter. And what I'm gonna do for this one is I want the sound to get lower and lower as the tail releases. So I'm gonna bring this down let's say negative 24, so 2 octaves. And the release here is gonna be about the same as I have up here for the tail, so about 3.3 seconds. Let's put it around there, good. And then what I'm gonna do is I want this up by 50. we go. So now this is going to play just at 0, but then as soon as I release my key on my keyboard and the tail kind of kicks in, it's going to start to pitch it down slowly. Right, so you get this like super long tail that is slowly pitching down, and this is kind of to emulate the sound of the thunderclap reverberating in the distance. Right, if the further it reverberates, you get only the lower and lower frequencies. So that's kind of what this is emulating here. All right, and one of the last things I'm going to add here is another envelope follower. So I'm just going to duplicate that one by clicking Control and then dragging it over. And then I'm going to assign this to the stereo so that the sound is more stereo as the tail goes out. So I'm going to bring this down. So as it gets pitched down and down, it's also getting wider and wider in the stereo field. It's not much, but it's just a little detail there. All right, and this is the first part to our thunder sound. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a sampler. And this is just to add the kind of explosion or the clap, the thunder clap to our explosion sound. And for this, I'm going to drag in some sort of impact or bassy impact that I have designed in my library. So I have this one right here. It sounds like this. Okay. And then what I'm going to do here is a few things. One is I'm going to want this to be more distorted. And so I'm just going to increase the drive on this a little bit. And then I want to send this. I'm not going to send it through everything here because it won't sound very good. So if I turn off this first group, right, it just sounds kind of like this distant roar. And maybe that's one of the layers you could have. Like this could be a layer. And maybe I want to export that. So I could actually save that. And maybe you'd want to do that too if you're at this point right now. What I want to try to do, though, and see if it sounds good, is send it to lane 3, which is just going to put it through the filter and the distortion. So I'm going to need to increase the release here a little bit, like this. Let me put it here. I normally like for like impact sounds like this, I like to have it on something like fifths or something. Yeah, either fifths or octaves. I try to do different things here, but usually fifths works pretty well, and then just see what I can get here. I'm going to pitch it down a little bit. Right, and to me that sounds pretty good. Right, that could be a really nice layer. And like I said, you can play with the lanes. Maybe lane 2 would be also good for a different layer. Right, that could also be another layer. Then lane 1. Right, so try setting this to different lanes based on the effects that you have in each lane. I kind of set it up this way because I knew this was going to work because I had done it before. But yeah, so with this now, I have like three different layers I could export out and use in my final assembly. So yeah, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save this patch, and then we're going to move on to the next part of this video where we're going to be designing more layers inside of Whoosh. All right, so here we are, and this is Whoosh by a company called Tunstorm. And this is loaded inside of a reactor by Native Instruments. So this is a reactor ensemble. So I think you need the full version of reactor, if I'm not mistaken, to run this. And so I just have a patch loaded here. This is actually just a default patch. So there's a few things we're going to want to do to create our thunder sounds or tail sounds for our thunder sound effects. So first thing, I'm going to turn my impacts on mute. And for the source material, we're actually going to use our own source material, of course. So I'm just going to put it to user 1 here. And what I'm going to load inside of here are some nature recordings. So I have some recordings of rain that I've recorded at my house. Also some wind recordings that I took on windy days. So I'm just going to load those in here, and then we'll be back with the next steps. All right, so I've loaded all of my wind and rain recordings in here. There's just 12 of them because that's how many slots we have available. So I'm just going to turn that off. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select user 1 for each of these sound sources. So now they're all going to pick from the same sample pool, from the same pool bank. So there's 12 samples. So, and then the R here that I'm clicking on, this is just to randomize through the samples so that every time Whoosh plays through, it's going to choose a different sample from that pool. In here, I'm going to want to do a few things. One is I want it to be on easy mode, cloud. So I'm going to do that for each of these, just easy mode and cloud. I want to make sure that the parameters here, it's looping or taking information from the whole sample, or at least most of the sample. And for the pitch here, you see the pitch is a little bit different for each one. And that's fine. You can kind of play around and see if you can get different results with that. I'm going to leave it like that for now. So now if we play, this is what we have. All right, sounds cool. I'm going to bring up the limiter here so that our sound's a little bit louder. And there's a few things we're going to want to do for our tail sound. First thing is the symmetry is going to be all the way down, and the shape is also going to be all the way down here. So now let's have a listen to what we have. Right, hopefully you can see I'm already getting some cool sounds. I'm actually going to grab these because I'm probably going to want to keep these for later, so I'm just going to drag and drop these in here, and I'll save these for later because those were some pretty nice sounds that I could probably use for my design later. So there you go. So now the only other thing that you might want to have a look at that I'd like to have a look at and maybe you want to change, and that's going to be our duck over here. So for our ducking feature, so I'm going to make sure that we have a little bit of a fade in, and then for the ducking, I'm going to see if I can get the attack down to 0, and let's see what that sounds like. Right, so we're getting some pretty cool sounds here. I already like these tails. I can already tell like these are going to be super useful for our thunder sound effects, so that's perfect. By the way, these tails also work really well for like gunshot sounds, explosion sounds, and things like that. Anyways, you can play around with the ducking too, like depending on what settings you have, you can get some cool effects as well. So. All right, and you can also play around with the seconds up here if you want a longer sample. That can also be very useful. All right, so with that, I'm just going to export a few of these, and maybe you want to do the same. Copy out a few of these, export them out, save them into a folder, and then we're going to be able to use those in our design. All right, so with these sounds, now let's start assembling everything. So I've already grabbed these and copied them over here, layered them on top of each other, and I've also layered the first sound that we designed inside of Faceplant over here. I just printed it out and put it here. So now with all of these, let's just have a listen to what we have. I'm just going to turn this one off here, and let's just have a listen to what we have so far. So already we have a pretty good, thunderclap start, and then it's really nice that this file kind of has this echo of the sound over here already printed into it. So that kind of worked out. I didn't have to make a separate file for that. Right after that, what I did is I took another file. I think is this the same copy of this one? I think it's a copy of this one. Yeah, and I just pasted it down here. And what I did is I cut out the entire beginning, and I just had the end part here, and then I just boosted up the gain quite a lot. So if we listen to it, I'm gonna just kind of take off the effect we have here. If we listen to it. Right, so that's the sound, and then I just pitched it down quite a lot. I pitched it down by 12, and then I also added some modulation so that the pitch keeps going down as the tail goes on. So with that, let's have a listen. Let's do it by itself again with the modulation. Right, so it just sounds like it's getting deeper and deeper and further away. So together. And now let's just add some rain here just to add our ambience into the sound. All right, and there you go. We already created a really simple thunderclap sound effect, right? And like I showed before at the beginning, I did one here that was a lot more complex and complicated. It was more drawn out. There was a lot more echoing and stuff. So, you can play around with these and add more layers and pitch them down, of course, as they go on. That's what I did here. So the first layer was at one pitch, and then every time I replicated it and duplicated it, it was pitched down a little bit so that it kept on feeling like it was further and further away. But yeah, and then you can also add other layers such as like a rumble sounds and stuff like that. So I had another bass rumble sound just so it fills out the sound a bit more and it feels heavier and bassier. But yeah, this is the basic way that I assembled this. So here's the first one again, just so I have a context. Right, and here's the one that we just built together from scratch here today. All right, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful and valuable. If you want to see more video, I actually made a whole video about designing natural ambiences. So if you are interested in seeing that, I'll make sure to link it up above in the cards. And if you have any questions, comments, leave them down below. I think that's it for now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.